Hey, everybody. So glad you joined us on the podcast today. We're going to have a great podcast. We have our children's minister and associate minister, Teresa and Staci, with us to talk about our recent family mission trip to Cancun, Mexico over spring break. Hope you enjoy. Welcome to FBC Missions So That podcast. This is an encouraging place to hear how God is working in and around us. We know that He blesses His people so that they can bless the world around them. Join us as we discuss how to join God in all that He is doing. Why is God working in our life, church, and community? It's so that through us the world will know that He is near. All right, we're so glad that you've joined us on today's FBC Missions So That podcast. I have Teresa and Staci in the studio with me, and I'm so glad you ladies have joined us. How are you?
We're doing great. How about you?
Great. How about you, Staci?
I'm good.
Yeah.
It's a we. We
awesome.
are a we.
Listen, it is Tuesday afternoon, and it feels like Thursday afternoon. It's been a busy week already. And it's actually only been 2 weeks since your mission trip, but it feels like it was a long time ago.
Only 2 weeks?
I finally feel a little
16 days ago. It wasn't that long ago.
Yeah. Holy moly.
And yet it feels like we were playing in Colorado that week, and it feels like it was forever ago.
Yeah, it does.
A lot of water under that bridge. So we want to do this as soon as possible when our teams come back, because we want to hear all the ways that God is worked in people's lives. But you guys planned this trip. You organized it. You led it, really, I would say, with minimal assistance from us. We just tried to help you when you asked for it, and that was very rare. You guys are like mission trip experts now. So
I don't think we'd say that. We would not say that.
Well, all right. So let's talk about it. This is our second family mission trip over spring break. And tell me what you guys enjoyed.
Oh, what didn't we enjoy?
All right.
That's kind of hard. 33 people. That was probably the biggest maybe hurdle, was the sheer volume of us.
It was big. Last year we took 17.
Yeah, 17. Yeah. So 33 biggest. And the site we went to said, this probably is as big as you should bring.
Basically, guys, we're not getting any bigger than that.
This is probably all we can handle. But it was fabulous. And each group was a little bit different as far as different family units. Some moms with just kids, some moms, dads, and kids. Some parents didn't go. They sent their kids with Staci and I, because maybe we know them really well, and that was kind of fun too.
Oh, goodness.
But it was taking 33 people to a restaurant in Cancun. Typically they couldn't even seat us all, so that kind of was probably the biggest challenge, to be honest with you, was just trying to figure out logistics of our sheer numbers. I'm
thinking through the restaurants that we go to,
exactly.
And only one probably has enough seating, and even that probably maxes it out.
Yeah.
So.
Yes.
Yeah.
Definitely.
That's wild.
The few restaurants we went to, we made their day. So
I'm sure that
they
they're
could just
happy
close
to
up shop.
happy to fill that restaurant order right there. That's amazing. So let's talk a little bit about our partner down there. So we work with a group called YWAM Cancun, and we've had a partnership with them for many years, and it's been a lot of fun. They've grown from really a startup organization to a full school. They do a lot of ministry. They lead a discipleship training school of training young adults that go on 3 or 4 or 6 month missions. So they've got a lot going on down there. But the school really is the core of our partnership there in a little community called Cuna Maya. And it used to be a squatters community, but it's a squatters community that's turned into a permanent community. So most of the houses are concrete houses. They might have some sheet metal tied to them in places, but they're permanent structures. Yeah. And so it's a impoverished area. But let's talk about the school. It's called Kingdom Academy. Tell us about it. How many kids do they have there?
They have 37 kids. I think they added 9 kids this year.
Yeah, that's like 28 last year. Yeah. That's amazing.
And we were able to build 6 more desks.
Okay.
So they kind of create a workspace for each kid, and they're hoping to bring more kids on board. So that'll be exciting. Yeah,
the school has grown. It was just almost 20 kids when I first got here too. So it almost doubled in the last 2 years. That's incredible. That's a great thing. So we took how many families? 7 families from FBC?
Sure.
8 families? 33 people?
33 people. Yes, 33.
Tell us, are they all missionary families? These are families that have been missionary superstars their whole lives?
No. I mean, you have some that went last year. We had one mom and son that returned.
Yeah.
And then we had a lot of new families.
New
Everybody
families,
was
first
new.
time.
Yeah,
First
everybody
time.
else was new.
Out of the gate, first time. And I mean, you could just feel Jesus coming off of them. They were so excited to be down there with the people and loving on people, and from any task to helping, clean up where the new bathrooms are going, to chopping up stuff. They were just excited to be there and loving on people.
So give us an overview. What kind of activities were you planning kind of leading up to the trip? What were these families expecting to do when you got there?
Well, we put together a schedule prior, which we met months before we went, to try to prepare them, introduce them to the organization, introduce them to the kids, teachers, and try to give them some idea of what to expect, hoping to prepare them, as well as they helped us pack. We do a packing party the Sunday before we leave. And so they're as ready as they can be for what they don't or may know. So we did have one mom who came on board that has been on staff before and used to go with youth. So she was able to bring her son, who she adopted, for him to experience. And it was fun for him because he's taking dual language. So he spoke Spanish and English. Not that he uttered many words on the trip because he's a little shy, but he would giggle because he could understand what people were saying, and none of the rest of us could. So that was kind of fun. But yeah, so we start out. I'll do part of it. The very beginning when we get there, it is spring break, so travel's a little bit interesting because ticket prices are crazy. So we fly. Here's a plug for Aero Mexico, who's really good to us. We fly with them because we get a really decent rate for a fare to get there. And we're pretty much the only people on the plane for a while because there's so many of us. And then we go, when we land that Sunday morning, we walk to church, to Vita Life, which is the church near where we're staying. And that's really fun, too. And they're so welcoming. They're so excited to see us. We pretty much took over the church, though, with 33 people. So we start out with that. And then we were able to put together a family devotional, which was also really nice. And so we asked them, what were you hoping to get out of the trip before they go?
Sure.
And so anyway, so then we head off the next morning for our first little ride in the van to Cuna Maya, to Kingdom Academy, to see the kids. So as you're driving down the streets, once we finally make the turn off to the neighborhood area, there's huge... the roads are not extremely drivable. You're moving from side to side because there's big, the roads are not paved for sure. And they're not even...
Unless you're Oso and you just jump the potholes.
Yeah, I know. So anyway, but then as we're getting closer, a little bit closer, you can see kids in their uniforms walking and they're all waving at us. And it was really kind of surreal. It was like a coming home for us a little bit, but for our families and our kids, they were all so excited to see us. So I'll let Staci tell a little bit more about what happened that day.
So we kind of jump in head first, and we start the day. So Kingdom Academy was very good to us and rearranged their schedule. They normally don't have class on Mondays, but for just this week, they took Friday off and were in school on Monday.
Oh,
so
that's
they
so
were
nice
there
of them.
I know they were there for us right off, and we got to start with worship and a time of prayer and getting to celebrate the kids' accomplishments there. And then we jumped into making the desk was one of the projects. We taught English. We made lunches for the kids and snacks for the kids. And then we did some painting that day. And then that afternoon, we had a VBS for over 100 kids. Or right at 100
that's the kids from school, maybe, and then for sure neighborhood kids. So we're trying to do a little bit of an outreach. So it's open to the neighborhood kids.
Yeah.
Did you guys do that just on Monday, or was that multiple days?
We did it both days.
We did it Tuesday,
great.
too. So
That's
then we
awesome.
had even more kids the second day.
I'm
Because they
sure.
talked.
Yeah, of course.
Because they talked. So we had even more kids the second day. And the mornings were kind of similar. We would do the
Had a work projects while the
work
kids were doing
projects,
school.
the English, and the meeting together worship was every morning, and that was fabulous.
Yeah, the first morning they taught us a song.
Yes.
And we tried to learn motions and stuff. Jehoshaphat's playing it on his little guitar. And then our second day, Daniel taught them. Our kids love the song "The Battle Belongs," a Phil Whitcomb song, I think, right? They love that, and they know the actions. And a ton of the kids that came were fifth grade students, which are in my class on Sunday mornings. And Staci has them in worship team, and so they know the actions. So they actually had a really fun time learning that song and then learning all the actions. So that was kind of extra fun for them on the second day to do that. But then we started doing some home visits. So we were also preparing bags of food and toiletries and vitamins and things like that to take. And so we were divvied up into 2 groups since we're so many of us. And we got a chance to go to the home of a student who was attending the school and see what their home environment was like, pray with them, and bring those groceries for them. So that was kind of fun. So I got to go to a family's house who the husband does work outside the home. He does, it's the nicest house I've been to ever there. And partially he does construction of homes. That's his job. And so he had like even tile in one area in his house. But again, it was one room.
Yeah.
One room, they all slept in it. That was their kitchen. That was their dining room. And the kids' beds were all in there. And so she was expecting twins.
Oh, goodness.
And so she just found out the next day she came to tell me that she was having girls. She has 3 boys, and she's having 2 twin girls. And then she said that will be the final children for her to bear. So she's done after that. But she's getting girls, so she's very excited.
I bet she is.
Yeah, but we got to pray with them, and their hospitality when you go into their house is just, they made a yummy fresh fruit drink for us. And we have a translator with us the whole time, and so they're sharing prayer requests and how we can pray for them. And then we got to spend a little time in prayer, learning about learn about their lives and then pray for them. So it was really, really a sweet time. Staci got to go to a different house than I did, so it was a pretty fabulous story and pretty amazing for our kids, right? To walk into an environment where my house last year, they didn't have a door, they didn't have windows, anything in their windows, and no front door, no back door, and mom and dad and kids all slept in one room. And they came with a beautiful meal it's interesting for kids to kind of watch that, our kids.
Yeah.
Like how happy these kids are with so little, yet how unsatisfied we are with so much.
Yeah.
And so it's a good conversation back in their hotel rooms at night with their kids and stuff. So, Staci, tell them a little bit about your visit.
So we went to the home of a grandmother raising her grandchild. The mom had passed away a few months before that. She had some issues with drugs and those kind of things. And she had her granddaughter, but she herself had breast cancer. And so she would travel 7 hours in a bus to go get her cancer treatments. And I say that loosely because what they do is they give them the chemo.
Yeah.
And then in 30 minutes, they're out the door.
Yeah.
They have to be somewhere else. And so...
Probably on the bus 7 hours back.
Yeah, she actually had a sister in the area because you also have to have somebody that will take responsibility for you. And so she had a sister in the area that would come and get her, and they would go 3 hours to the sister's house because it was closer than her 7-hour bus ride back. Wow. Sweetest lady. She was very proud. She had saved, for years, she had worked, she was a hairdresser and did hair on the beaches at some of the places. And so she had scrimped and saved everything she had to buy her land and build her house. And she was very proud of it. And it was one of the nicer homes we had been to, all in one room, probably the size of the podcast room we're in right now, with 3 beds. And she cried because she didn't have anything to offer us that day. And we had brought the groceries. And so I was with Daniel and 2 of the kids. And Daniel got to lead her to knowing who Jesus was. And she asked him into her heart that day. And it was just the sweetest. You couldn't understand, the translator was keeping up, but they were crying, we were crying. So you just knew the Holy Spirit was in the room.
Yeah,
so
that's awesome.
Yeah, one of my favorite things is she said, I remember you guys telling me, she said she was crying out to the Lord. Mm-hmm. And she knew he was hearing her. But after she made the decision to be a follower of Jesus, she felt that he was hearing her. So
Yes.
it was like a difference. Like she knew now, that she knew where she was going to go if this cancer did choose to take her life. And there's such a family there. The principal, the director of the school had taken the granddaughter for the 11 days while grandma was gone at chemo. And then that team, she has to have the money for that bus ride. Mm-hmm. And so that team said, we don't want that to be a hindrance for her at all. So they collected the money for her for all of her bus rides for her to finish her treatment so that we know that she'll get there and get the treatment that she needs. So we saw the generosity of our team and how God, the Holy Spirit worked in their lives and several needs, which we can talk a little bit more about later too.
Sure. Well, one of the fun things about taking families is you get to take some small kids.
Yes.
And last year, I remember we had the Mason family and little Theo helping us chop concrete block and put them in a position. And it was so fun to see how 5 to 7 to 11-year-olds engage in foreign environments, right? You guys had a bunch of kids who'd never been before.
Yes.
How did they do?
Amazing.
It's like I said, universally, kids know how to play.
Yeah.
So the kids in the school would have recess, and they would just look for our kids. And they would eventually typically find a kid they connected with based on age, or maybe if it was a boy and a boy or whatever. And they just played. They didn't need to speak the same language. All of a sudden, they're
laughing.
Playing volleyball.
They're smiling.
Yeah.
Communicates really clearly.
Yeah, kicking soccer balls, doing whatever, playing tag. It just, they didn't need to understand the words coming from each other.
What did they say? It doesn't matter. We were having fun.
Yep.
Exactly.
What's their name? I don't know.
I don't know. Well, yeah. So that's one of the most fun things I think for parents to see as well is that their kids can interact with another culture and not have any issue. It's actually one of the best methods of mission engagement in any new environment. If you don't have kids, it's hard to find a way to break into a culture. If you have kids, they break into the culture without any problems.
Exactly.
All of a sudden you're in conversations with other parents and you're getting to know their family and their culture, and the kids ask questions they shouldn't ask and they do things they shouldn't do, and you're apologizing and you're saying sorry and you're laughing, and it's just it breaks whatever barriers there might be.
It really
blows them to bits, right? And so how fun is all of that, and watching those kids interact, and the Mexico kids as well. It's just so wonderful.
The team was fabulous. I thought 33 people. I think several of them had never met each other before.
No.
So brought in a whole group of strangers together. You're
and that everybody gets along, that there's no personality conflicts.
Sure. There's always
nothing.
Possibilities.
We had nothing. And we had several things that didn't go the way we planned, nothing catastrophic from my perspective. But everybody was amazing. I mean, I just think God was at work, and there was no room for that stuff. So it was super fun. So we had one little boy we talk about a lot that's at Kingdom Academy that I don't know his real backstory, except for that he was born with some issue so that he couldn't walk. And I know some people before us that have pioneered this mission trip were able to get him a surgery, so he does have a walker, and that's what the pathway we did last year was going to help him with.
Which has vastly expanded, by the way.
It's
like I've noticed,
yes.
it looks like it goes everywhere now.
Yeah. So because when it would rain or whatever, he couldn't get it. His walker would be in the mud or whatever, and he could go fast. Well, this year we didn't see him. The first day we were there, and we're like, "Where's Joshua?" And so by the second day, then finally somebody told us, hey, well, one thing, he's been sick. That's the other thing we take for granted because, again, remember, they may not have concrete floors. They may not have roofs on their house. So they have water in their house, which also means they don't have a way to keep bugs out of their house, which means they also get mosquitoes that make them sick, that bite them at night, which we had one little girl that we actually sponsored at church that was out for 3 months, was sick because she had gotten bit by a mosquito that made her sick. But Joshua had been sick, plus he gets to work on it's kind of like a bicycle that carries him, right? And his bicycle is fairly old, and they were surprised it had lasted as long as it did.
It's probably because of the number of Americans that we caught around last year.
Probably. That could be it. But
They're
anyway,
giving us rides on it last year. It was a ton of fun.
He lives the furthest of all the kids that come to the school, and he does have 2 brothers also. And so he has to be pretty much carried.
Yeah, so it's a three-wheeled bike, but the 2 wheels are in the front, so it's a big cart, big enough. It's basically like a wheelchair cart. You can put the wheelchair in it. He can sit in it. His grandmother rides him to school. So the bicycle had broken, and so he didn't have a way to get to school.
Correct. Yep, unless somebody was going to carry him the whole way. And again, it's hot and it's a long distance. So anyway, so we called our team in and said, hey, they've done some research, and here's how much we think this bike would cost. No obligation whatsoever, but if y'all feel like you have any money you can pitch in, it would be ideal. It would be a real blessing to them to get that done. And by the time the team was done putting money into the little pot to try to help with that, we had more than enough money for that. And I actually just got a picture yesterday. Mm-hmm. He also has had the same braces on his feet, his legs, since he did the surgery. He's never gotten, and he's grown. And so we were able to use the money to not only buy him that new bike, but we also got him 2 new braces that are a size for him now at his age and growth. So that was really encouraging. So I think it was really fun for the team to be able to step up to do it, and it was really fun for them to see, because they got to see. We kept Joshua and his brothers after school because we didn't want to make a big deal with the others around, and brought the bike out, and he just couldn't stop beaming from ear to ear.
That kid has a smile that
he
will
does.
melt your heart, right? Like
Yeah.
he just so much heart. One of my favorite things is watching him play soccer with his walker.
With his walker.
He's like chasing everyone around. He falls on the ball. He does anything.
Yeah.
He'll take over the whole thing if you let him. And it's so fun. He's so full of life.
Yeah.
And we actually wouldn't even had known about the need, but our families, that's one of the families they went to.
He visited the home.
To visit the home.
And that's when we found out.
And that's when we found out.
Oh.
And so they came back and they're like, well, did you know this? And we were like, no. That's what they would have never told us. They would have never.
They're humble people. They don't.
No, of course.
No.
And the same thing in Cuna Maya. They're not asking Darius and the leaders and Swindy because they already feel like they get so much.
They're so grateful for just being able to send your kids to school.
Yes.
So I don't know if our listeners know how school works in Mexico. I'm not an expert, but it's a lottery system. So there's only so many.
And you have to have a birth certificate.
Yep. There's only so many places in the government schools, and you have to have a birth certificate, which many of the kids that are in poverty don't have. Mm-hmm. And so if you don't have the birth certificate and you don't get picked, you don't go to school. And so we see tons of kids around the neighborhood that are walking around. A sibling could get picked and they might not too.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a real blessing to be able to have Cuna Maya. And some of the kids have not. We had a couple new kids that didn't do well in the school because we're probably pretty spoiled here with our school system. If you have a kid who has maybe, I don't want to say special needs, but has a different learning style, they're not accommodating to that stuff. No. Whereas when these kids graduate, they will have they'll have a diploma from an accredited school in the United States, be English and Spanish. Pretty powerful for them.
Yeah, of course.
Because now, even if they stay in that area, they can speak both languages, which is going to enable their opportunity to get a job.
Yeah,
to be able to support their
English
family.
is going to make such a huge deal. When they get English in Mexico, they can join so many companies or college programs or whatever. And having a degree, a diploma from a U.S. high school is a big deal as well.
Yeah.
So that's just so Kingdom Academy and its impacts are continue to be they're generational changing, right?
Yeah.
Like they're going to change the direction of those families if they can complete. And it is scholastically challenging as well. So it's not an easy program.
No.
But they take care of those families really well,
They do.
and you really see the heart of those families that have moved down there to support that work.
Yeah.
And all of the supporting kind of your 1-year DTS students and others that are kind of in there for a couple of years.
Fun.
And it's really a great community. It's really great. Well, gosh, there's so much going on. Any other favorite stories? You guys have told a couple now.
Probably the other thing is last year for Vacation Bible School, we used Kingdom Academy's kids because when we went there last year, they said one of their challenges were the kids don't have food. And so they're coming to school trying to learn, and we know our brains need food, and how do we do that? So we made, we raised money to provide lunches for the kids so when they went to school, so we knew they had food. Because a typical kid, like I saw a grandfather drop off just one of those yogurt juice boxes, like that would be, I don't even think that's a snack for one of my kids, but that was their food for the whole day.
That was their lunch. Yeah, that was their
food
whole
for the
food.
whole day. And so it was really, really fun to come and see. I mean, they were making them really probably better lunches than we get, but it's the only food they're probably getting that day. Mm-hmm. And it was really fun. And an interesting thing that has happened is they don't really try a lot of different food. right? So they're having to tell the kids you have to take two different types of vegetables to try because they aren't eating fresh fruits and vegetables. They don't have access to them. So it was kind of an interesting, training their palate to try. But it was really fun to see them having lunches and being able to. They're doing better academically from it. And just health-wise better from that. So
and just to clarify, like the VBS was able to raise enough money to provide for their lunches for the entire year.
The entire year.
Which is incredible too. Like such a outpouring of generosity by our kids and their families at Vacation Bible School. Of course, we did have however many 700 kids at Vacation Bible School.
We
so
did.
It was an amazing, crazy thing.
It was a boy versus girl competition.
Anytime you get those guys going,
it
always gets some reason people start dropping checks into those things. It gets wild. Well, it's so fun. So do you think we'll do these again? Will we do another family trip?
Oh, yeah.
I think it's pretty likely. And we do have a couple of the families lined up to do some videos, so you guys can watch for those.
Awesome. Same thing on the podcast. If any of them want to jump on the podcast, I'd love to organize that. So send them my way if they're willing to talk. One of the fun things is some of your families were what I considered very introverted families. Like they're very quiet. And you guys said that the one that I would have thought was most introverted was really extroverted in the trip, which is amazing.
Yes, it's like they just, I don't even know how to explain it. You had to be there to see just their bloom and personalities coming out and loving on everyone. It was just amazing.
The family lived overseas before they came to the U.S. It reminds you that there are families here that are third culture families that find this place awkward.
Yes,
and thrive in what other people might find as an odd and difficult scenario. They're like, oh, finally something familiar. And it's really, really amazing.
And it was fun because we had some unexpected things happen. One child got sick, but the families never knew each other prior to this trip. And they were like, dude, let me go get you some coffee. Hey, let me go get some, Pedialyte for your wife. Can I, they just came around each other like family. And it was fun. I mean, I remember watching, here's something that happened that was pretty impactful. We were going to go visit homes, but they let the kids pick one of us to pray for.
The Mexico kids.
Yes, the Mexico kids, the Kingdom Academy kids picked one of us 33 to pray for. And so the story about the grandma, that granddaughter picked Daniel to pray for. And that was later that afternoon, he was going to lead her grandma to know the Lord. So crazy. And so I got picked by Jeremy, which I do every year, bless his heart. One day he's going to be on this podcast with me, I think. So, but it was just really powerful. And so I watched several of our guys were from the military. And I just watched the tears well in their eyes while this little kid, who from our perspective has nothing, but from the Lord's has everything he needs, just well up as this kid is praying over him. This is too much for me to handle. And that's how I feel about God's love sometimes. I can't even comprehend it. And that's what it was like for them. It was just
we had military pilots. We had such a diversity on the group. Former Army, ex-Army. You got all kinds of stuff going on in this group. And, we did. And it's always so cool when you kind of just combine a group like that. They become like a family. And it's hardest is when you come back and you go home. You're like, like it's over. Where is everybody? And and there's a little bit of a reattachment to your life, and there's a sadness that comes with it. Like, oh, it can be nice to have that kind of community all the time,
right?
And it would wear on you, but yeah. Well, you guys have done such a great job shepherding, caring for, and just mentoring these families through all this. How do you follow up with them? How do you care for them on this back end of the trip?
Yeah, well, that was part of our take-home devotional for them was some follow-up stuff with that. They are also doing a survey about it. And I think we're going to try to get together one time with them now after, as well as they're going to do videos about how the trip was. So it'll be interesting to see. Perspectives are always a little bit different. We had serious businessmen there, too, that, really can hardly even leave to go on a trip, And dads that got to go with their daughters and their wives for the first time and sons on a trip. Like mom is gone forever, but dad hasn't. And it was life-changing. He loved it.
I love that. I love that. I can't wait to hear more about that. One of the things I want to start talking about is really next steps. If we have families that go on these trips a year or two and they want to do something kind of that's a little bit more engaging or a little bit more specialized, what would that look like? What would it be? And so if you're listening to this, like there's a couple invitations you should know. One is we want to help families engage in God's mission together. So it doesn't have to be overseas. There's opportunities here.
Absolutely.
But we want to give you our international opportunities. So this is kind of our first foray. Last year in 2024, this year 2025, we expect to continue doing these things. I don't know if we'll do every spring break. We might, but that's worked the last 2 years, and we'll keep working towards what it's going to look like in 2026. But we do want to hear from you. We want to hear families telling us what they're looking for. What are you excited about? What are you praying about? If you have an idea of a place that you feel like is uniquely something God's called you to, tell us. We'd love to figure out if we can help you either find a way to get there, or we can help you organize something that maybe could include some other families along with you. We are so blessed at FBC Boerne to have families that are willing to risk, that have the capacity to spend the resources to go and really be a blessing in with their own hands, with their own feet, with their kids alongside them. And it is a blessing in every part. It's a blessing for those kids to see their parents serving. It's a blessing for the parents to see the kids just jumping in and running around. In its own way, it's a blessing to see your family interacting in a foreign environment, serving someone else, even when they're driving you nuts in the Mexico City airport for 5 hours.
5 hours. Maybe we shouldn't tell them about that part.
Hey, you got to get there. And even though we know there's direct flights in Southwest, they're not always available. So, thank you, Aero Mexico.
4 times the cost.
Yeah, Aero Mexico was a quarter or half, and it seems consistently so. So you pay for it in a few hours wandering around one of the biggest cities in the world. It's fine. It's fine. It's good times.
Yeah. And I do think some of the desire came. We're intentionally, Staci and I, working on, especially in 5th grade. It's the class I teach this year. And we did a totally different curriculum where we wanted kids to really start to own their own faith. You know, what do I believe? And if I do, how do I think, act, and be? And so we have done service. So we took the kids down to taking it to the streets. Yeah. And some parents came along with us. That was very eye-opening with them. Now, they've done a coat drive for taking it to the streets. And so we're trying to, and we're aligned with 2 other partners to do a couple other things. And so I think just giving them some of the local experience kind of made the kids want more and wanted to experience more than the parents wanted them to have that experience, and felt God kind of tugging at them. And so it was kind of fun. So it was really a whole bunch of kids from my 5th grade class, which was fun. So,
well, what an incredible thing. Well, it's been a great blessing for me as a missions pastor to get to take my family on a few mission trips over the last 10 years. And to some degree, they're accustomed to it. You know, they're expecting it. And if and when the Lord calls them out, they're not going to have too much fear because they've been there. They've seen that, and they've got an idea of what it can look like and what it takes to love and care for people in another environment. So, well done, ladies. Well done for leading the team.
Yeah, Staci really does the majority of the logistics. I just show up and do what she tells me to do. I manage relationships. That's my deal. And just our team down there that we serve with is just phenomenal. So we love them. They're like family to us now. So
yes,
definitely. They're wonderful, and they definitely want this partnership and connection to continue. Right. It really is just about a perfect place for a first time trip to go and serve in that kind of capacity.
Yeah, so I have absolutely no concerns, parents. If you do that, your kid isn't safe. I am the biggest worrywart about kids going somewhere, and I felt perfectly safe about it. And we have people that were worried about it that went on this trip. And so when you hear from them, they'll tell you, I had no concerns whatsoever.
The military, law enforcement, they read all the news and they know all the bad stories. And you're like, oh, okay. But
is this a great idea? Should we be doing this? But they felt perfectly safe. They were just surprised at how safe they felt and how harmless of a trip it was from that perspective. So,
yeah, it really has been such a blessing over and over again. I lived in Mexico for a few years. I've gone back and forth a lot. I've been in areas that were cartel controlled. Yeah. I've never once seen anything personally that made me feel unsafe. I know that there are stories and I know that things happen. But these are, especially Cancun, is a large urban environment. Right. So it's like San Antonio or Houston. Right. There's going to be areas that you want to, if you're going to be smart and safe, do things in the middle of the day, you're not going to have any issues. So.
Well, and we do that. We do talk about general guidelines. Nobody's ever by themselves. You don't wander away, those kind of things. I would do that in downtown San Antonio.
Yeah, of course. Of course. Well, again, thank you so much we'll get on the podcast, talk a little bit about this. Love to hear more as it emerges. And I know the people listening love to hear stories of how the people that they pray for on a Sunday morning. How did it go? What happened? Hearing that a grandmother gave her life to Jesus, and honestly that she's struggling through cancer, that there's families who are having a hard time. To know the generosity of our own families who not only are taking their kids and going across the Gulf of Mexico to Cancun, but they're also in the middle of it, sacrificing additionally to help the people with those specific needs. And again, what an amazing thing God's done in this church with these families in this time, in this place, and honestly with you guys as helping and leading this thing. So thank you for your willingness to give up your spring break 2 years in a row, and we'll figure out when's the next best time to start prepping and planning. If you're listening today, pray for us. Pray for those families. Pray that they'll be able to think through the implications of what they saw, what they heard, what they learned, what God said to them while they were there. Pray for those families in Mexico, that they would be sustained. Their lives are difficult, but they're in God's hands. Like He is as present there as He is here. And so they are not alone. No. So pray that God would sustain them. Pray for the leaders at Kingdom Academy and YWAM Cancun. They've got a lot of pressure. They're doing a lot of things. They're raising funds. They're doing a lot to try to make that grow and care for as many families as possible. So pray that God would provide for their needs as well. If you have any questions, you're welcome to seek out any one of us, Teresa or Staci, myself, and Pastor Daniel, I'm sure, would love to tell you his experiences. We'd love to connect you with families if you want to hear their experiences as well. But if you have any questions or comments, feel free to reach out to us. And remember why we do the podcast. We want you to hear about how God is using His people for His glory. The verse says that He blesses us. He shines His face on us. He's gracious to us so that His name will be made famous among the nations, His salvation among the peoples. And so don't waste it. God's given us so much, and it's for a purpose. It's so that we can be a blessing. So wherever you are, be a blessing. I hope you have a wonderful day. God bless. We are so thankful that you joined our podcast today. We would love to hear any feedback you may have for us. Remember, Psalm 67 says, "May God be gracious to us and bless us, and make His face shine on us, so that your ways may be known on earth and your salvation among all nations." Don't forget why the Lord blesses us. It's so that we can be a blessing to those around us. Until next time, God bless.